Hey folks, Justin Byrne here. We got some more questions in. We had a question today from a girl who asked, can you cover the topic of receiving more grace? Question mark. This is both in terms of letting go of relationships and friendships where you wouldn't see the person again and you live in different cities. I'm in that situation right now and I've prayed for grace many times, but I still have a sense that I need more grace to no longer miss that person. And it was clarified that we were just friends, but we are no longer in touch with each other. To answer this question, let's cover something first. I'm gonna give you 5 points. The first point is understanding something, and it's understanding how emotions work. Emotions are automated response systems. What that means is, let's say you break up with someone and you see your ex months after you broke up and you were feeling fine, and then all of a sudden you see them at a party or something and you don't want to be affected by them, but you feel affected by them. Your emotions are automated. They happen to you even when you don't want them to, because they are a health system. They help you know what is going on an emotional level, because we are physical, emotional, biological beings, spiritual beings. We are all these things working together. And emotions happen to us. But here's the thing. Emotions are fueled by thoughts and choices. Okay, think about it like this. There's a car and there's an engine, and you put fuel in the car to run the engine. The engine represents your heart. It's the power. It's how the thing operates. It makes everything else kind of work. But the fuel allows the engine to work. And the fuel are our choices and our thoughts. What we think about, whether good or bad, affects how our heart, the engine, runs, good or bad. We have to feed ourselves with good thoughts and choices to keep our heart and this automated system in good operation. So with that being said, let's look at a few things that will make your heart run bad and a few things that will make your heart run good in terms of how we relate to missing people. Okay, number one, actually that number one was explaining it. Number two, when we run from our pain, that is bad fuel. That is an action or even a thought process that when we avoid our pain, we are missing really important information. One time I broke up with a girlfriend years ago, and I was driving home a few weeks after we broke up, and it just hit me how sad I was about missing her. And I went home and I felt like I needed to just sit in that pain. And my temptation was to just ignore it and just turn on the radio and just get past it. But I felt I need to sit in this. So I went home and literally turned the lights off, did nothing, and just sat there and just let pain, whatever pain I could feel, I just wanted to feel it. Because I wanted to see what was really going on inside. I did that for about a week, almost every night. And I would cry, and I would just let the pain go through me. I would process it. And I noticed something. As I didn't avoid pain, I became clear as to what the real dynamic of that relationship was. There are some unhealthy things in that relationship that I was feeling the effects of the pain of those choices and those thoughts that relationship brought to me and how I interacted with it. And I realized, wow, this was painful. This was difficult. And I don't want to get into that situation again anytime soon. I want to be better with how I enter into relationships, how I do relationships. I learn the reality of that relationship, that there's a lot there I actually didn't want because it created a lot of pain. But I learned that by sitting in my pain. So the good fuel would be to learn from pain and don't run from it. Ultimately, pain is trying to teach you something that you need to know. you have pain. It's healthy. It's showing you something's not right. Something on an emotional level is not right. So to just run from it is ignoring this really good warning sign. But so many people run from their pain and they don't sit in it long enough to learn what it's trying to teach them. And there's a phrase that C.S. Lewis says: God whispers to us in our passions, he speaks to us in our conscience, and he yells at us in our pain. And I'd say this: it's not just learning from pain. Like if it gets to the place where we ignored the whisper, we ignored him talking to him, now he's yelling at us in our pain, we'll finally get an idea from the pain. But we want to learn to be sensitive enough to the wisdom of God and the wisdom of how to do life well, to listen to it where it's just the beginning stages of, oh, something's a little bit off. I want to learn to listen to it then instead of wait till I need pain to be able to direct my life well. See how that works? So that's ultimately the goal. But if you're in a state where you're feeling pain, learn what it's trying to teach you. All right, number 3. The bad fuel in this scenario is if you think the other person won't be okay without you and you stay sad that the other person isn't with you anymore because you have this over protective, over responsibility for the person. That's going to keep you connected to them. I had another girlfriend I broke up with, and afterwards I remember just feeling so bad and just sad about it and crying. And then I felt like God said, "Why are you crying?" I thought, it's just so sad that we're not together. And he's like, "Why?" And I thought, because I'm afraid she's not going to be taken care of, or she's not going to be okay without me, or she's going to be so sad, or I did something that hurt her too much by breaking up. And he goes, "Oh, so you think her being with you is going to take care of her?" He goes, "And do you think that I was taking care of her long before you were in the picture?" And I also heard him say, "Do you think I'm going to continue to take care of her even if you were in the picture?" Right then I realized I was just worrying that I was pretending to play God, that this person needed me that much and that they weren't going to be okay. And as soon as I realized that, I just stopped crying. I was like, oh, yeah, that isn't my responsibility. God, you take care of her better than I can. And so a good fuel to put into your heart, a good choice, a good thought about that type of situation would be to just verbally pray and give that person back to God and say, "It's not my responsibility anymore. Never was my responsibility, and I don't want to pick that up. I want to, because God takes care of people better than we take care of them." So that's one other option if you're dealing with that. Okay, number 4, bad fuel is when we expect things to just change instantly. Because we have to realize we're habitual beings. Our brain works in cycles. They say it takes around something like 30 days for a habit to really start to form, a full 90 days for it to be solidified. And there's those aren't exact dates, but it's something like that where we're working with our brain as well. And there are cycles that it needs to go through to retrain itself or relearn something or learn something. And so when we have these different types of ways of thinking that aren't good, and we need to start thinking about things in a different way, we need to allow time for it to work its way through, for allow process. Also, I tell myself, character grows at the pace of life. If we need to develop more character, don't expect it to be a quick fix. It's the long haul. It's the lifelong development. Just learn to do a little bit each day, and that's your goal. Choose wisely what you are feeding your heart each day. Are you feeling hope, or are you feeling hopelessness? Are you feeling peace, or are you feeling fear? Are you taking steps that show trust that God loves you and he cares about you? Or do you see evidence more of self-pity? The good fuel would be to continue on the good process. Let the process continue to happen each day. Don't forsake growth if it doesn't happen right away. we are creating new habits. So let time have its way to make that happen in your life. Another good point to think about is there isolation and immobilization happening? Sometimes when we're hurt or we miss someone or we feel bad about something, it's easy to isolate and just shut down our life. And it's easy to not take any steps of courage or that's good, any steps that are good for us. And I'd say be very careful of when you are isolating and not moving. There is something that happens when you keep moving. It opens you up to the new possibilities, and there's this joy and there's this expectation and there's this new adventure that's so good at filling our life with things that are interesting and rewarding and meaningful, and that helps not give too much credence to the loss of somebody, because my life is a full. My life is happening and it's good. I see interesting things, and that person doesn't become everything. There's a line in a poem I like that says, "Let all men count with you, but none too much." And it's just keeping it helps keep people in a right perspective. If our lives become so miserable or so isolated or just no hope because nothing's happening in our life, it's easy to make a romantic relationship be all of our focus, all of our purpose, all of our meaning, because we feel so terrible and this feels good, so we gravitate towards this thing. So take care of your life. Watch out for isolation and immobilization. Those are a few things I thought of that can help you deal with missing somebody. And one last thing. My mom always told me this: beware of, once you break up with somebody or you move away from somebody, oftentimes your mind can misrepresent things and make you feel like, oh, it was actually better than it was, and oh, I miss them. Because once you get lonely, sometimes even the destructive thing can be somewhat attractive because you're lonely. But ask yourself this: would I be willing to get back into a serious relationship with this person or really seriously pursue it? And would I have peace about that? If the answer still is no, or I don't know, or absolutely not, then it's probably your mind just dealing with the pain of going back to becoming alone, or without that person, or without the thought of that person. And that just takes some time to get used to a new state of living, of going back to being alone and developing a life without a person. But do not listen to your mind when it's telling you false information, that it is something when it wasn't something, and it won't be if you go back into it, just because you're feeling alone. So that's something really good to consider in going back to being alone. Anyway, I hope some of those things helped you. Just stay open, stay honest with people, and process, and you will find a good way. If you're earnestly seeking what is good for your life and willing to find it and go through it, you will find it. So have hope. God has good relationships for you. He has the right person for you, and he has the right person for this guy that you're trying to move on from. And don't be the person who gets in the way of that. Keep seeking what God has for you, and it will work out for him, and it'll work out for you. All right, you guys have a good day. Talk to you soon. Bye.